And now, ready for some locker room talk. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on the Tuesday mandate. Get on Billy Bush in studio. Excited to speak to you, Billy. I did Billy's show, Hot Mics with Billy Bush, on TuneIn.com and YouTube as well. Very good interview, very fun show, and surprisingly funny. I do not think Billy gets credit for being as funny as he actually is, but I saw his whole opening monologue, very funny monologue, and the questions as well during the interview. So good to see you, Billy.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for doing my show too. I'm a rookie, I'm a babe, and you an experienced, maybe a founder.
Oh, early on for sure, but reps are reps, and you're doing reps on your feet in front of the camera for all those years is really no different than, there's no difference between doing terrestrial radio and doing a podcast and doing on your feet kind of hosting and stuff. It's just mic in hand, on your feet, speaking. And it's only reps will work in that department. There's no school, there's no certificate, there's no get the training and or have some bestow some information on you. It's just those reps, right?
Although I'll say, I've been doing this for 24 years or something like that, and I just got this Aura thing, the Aura ring, and I looked at it. My daughter's showing me how to do it. I looked at it, and it said at 2 o'clock when we went live on our show, the heart rate popped up to the top.
Really?
And it's like everything's normal the whole time, all night, all during the day. And then at 2 o'clock on the nose, bang, which shows you, like, I don't care how long you've been doing it. For me, definitely nervous, definitely butterflies, bang, the heart popped. And then at 2:03, at 2:01, whatever, it's gone, just for a second.
Do you find, here's what I find in this department of, butterflies or heart rate. There are certain people who you will sit down with who are so substantial and so skilled that you realize, oh, I got to be on my game.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's sort of stoner comedian who you can just, chillax with a little bit. But I think about guys who would come in here, the aforementioned off the air Tucker Carlson, guys, Ben Shapiro. I was thinking about it the other day. Dennis Miller.
Yeah.
Dennis Miller is so fast and so funny that you better be sitting up and bring it when he's sitting across from you. Otherwise, he's just going to bowl right over you. And those guys are the guys that make my heart rate go up, where I go, this guy's going to know I'm a buffoon in 10 seconds.
And
if
is
I
it
don't
mostly
do it
comedy
right.
people because you have the business card that says comedian, so like you have to hold your own with them? Or
no, it's like
I'm not a comedian, so I'm surprisingly funny to you at times, right? Because I didn't expect that. Billy Bush isn't on stage, making people laugh.
Well, you are. You're skilled and you're funny, and you could probably go that direction. Like you could do stand up. You could work humor. You could tact toward humor if you wanted. You have the chops to do it. Now, there is a thing of once you start labeling yourself as a comedian, now there's a different set of rules, which is, and now you have to be funny. Better to be the funniest, fill in the blank.
Sneaky funny.
Yes. Once you
walk into a comedy club and Adam Carolla is appearing tonight in San Diego at the Belly Up, people are expecting to laugh, and if they don't laugh, you know what I mean.
Now
that's
it's different.
Tough.
Yes,
expectation.
And I agree. It's sort of better to be Bob Uecker.
Oh, like may he rest in peace.
You
Bob.
are the funniest baseball guy. You know what I mean? And everyone loved Bob Uecker. But if Bob Uecker just said, "I'm never talking about baseball again. I retired from baseball. I'm doing stand-up," people would look at him as a mediocre stand-up, not the funniest guy to talk about baseball. You know what I mean? I'm never trying to take anything away from him, but I'm just saying it's better to be Bob Uecker than join the ranks of all the comedians that are just sort of out there.
Well, you had a niche, right? So you stick with your niche. I don't know what my niche is other than, I've been doing, I don't know, the same thing for a long time. So this was finally like launching this new show. You were so nice to come over. Is like doing what I should have been doing a long time ago, but didn't have the balls to do.
Well, listen, I love going over there because it's Howie Mandel's facility.
I knew it had to be something. It couldn't have been just little old me.
I return like MacArthur returning to the Philippines because every time I show up at Howie Mandel's place, there's a new production, there's a new set, there's a new thing, there's a new set of guys. And I just told Mandel 10 years ago, get a warehouse. Just get a warehouse. Believe me, you will use that warehouse. And he did it. And every time I see him, he goes, that's the guy who told me to get a warehouse. And I've been telling everyone, just get a warehouse. It's a great investment, but you will use it. And Howie's using the shit out of that warehouse.
I mean, he's got in one corner. Howie's like the Fred Trump of the opera. He's the landlord he's screwing me in one corner. He's screwing Bill Maher and his company in another corner. He's got the hologram business.
Yes,
he's got the hologram salesman in the corner, selling hologram machines. There's a lot happening. It's all weird.
So I've wanted to talk to you. I've always wanted to talk to you on a sort of human level because of the whole Trump hot mic and how you got just thrown under the bus, almost literally. And I've never been able to square it. And maybe I'm always this way, but I do find myself saying, I don't get what Billy Bush did in this equation. Why does he need to be removed? But I sort of find that, like, there's certain cases, like there's the guy who was in Mumford & Sons, and he was like, I don't know, the banjo player in Mumford & Sons. And
if it's not Mumford, I don't know anyone else.
He read Andy Ngo's book about Antifa and then commented that he was brave to write that book about Antifa and then got thrown out of the band. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on.
He didn't say, I support Antifa, I'm an Antifa guy. He said, that dude is brave for writing it, is what he said.
He said the dude who wrote the book against Antifa. Well,
people have been fired and canceled for less. This
I don't even
goes
know
on forever.
I'm always amazed, but I know it does. When the ancillary characters get fired, like this guy's not an Antifa, and he didn't write a book about Antifa. He just said, I read a book about this guy, and they threw him out. And that's the part that drives me nuts. That's what I felt about you. Like, I don't get what Billy Bush did in this equation.
Yeah, what he did was look, I'll let people decide if the punishment outweighed the crime. Over time, it swung all the way.
Walk us through it, if you don't mind. If that's not going to send you spiraling I've
had a lot of therapy. Adam. I pulled myself away back from the brink. What do you want me to tell you?
I would like to just have you walk through those events, and then we can go back and kind of deconstruct them a little.
Oh, geez. Oh, my God. I feel, well, maybe the PTSD is coming. Yeah, look, it's the October surprise, first of all. Let's remember, this is a very hot, emotional time. It's 2016, So it's the beginning of Trump derangement syndrome. People are going bonkers over him. Some are loving him. Some are,
And you go back with Trump.
I go back, way back. Listen, I was the NBC entertainment guy, the host of Access Hollywood. They'd recently named me host. I was just a little correspondent running around to every premiere, kissing celebrity ass on the red carpet in New York as a correspondent. But then they named me the host of the show. I moved to Los Angeles. So but part of the reason I got to be the host is because I established great rapport with Simon Cowell, huge star breakout from American, and Donald Trump. And Trump was without question at this time, the time of that bust, 2005, the biggest star on NBC because his show cost little to make and he was making $100 million in profit for the network. So he was the big guy. My job was to stay on his jockstrap, like wherever get more shoots with Trump. What are we doing with Trump this week? Because remember, every celebrity has a publicist, and the publicist threatens you afterwards. Don't use this part. Don't use that part. Or we'll never let you get an interview with our bigger client, Clooney.
Right.
That there's always the threats that come.
Yes.
Trump, his publicist carried his briefcase. I don't even know what was in the brief, but you know what I mean. Trump was his own machine. And he just loved publicity. He was a soundbite machine, and he was gold. He was gold. He would say anything.
But I think more importantly, what I'm getting at is I knew Trump a bit, and you knew Trump a bit. So I didn't know Trump as well as you, but I knew him. So when people started in with sort of Trump derangement syndrome, I felt like I was semi-qualified, just like I would, like once in a while, somebody will go like, "Oh, I hate that Kimmel. He's such a prick," and I'll go, "He's a good dude.
Yeah,
I know that guy.
Yeah.
He's a generous guy. He's great with my kids. He's a good dude. Now you may disagree with him on this, that, and the other, but he's a good dude because I know." Because I know the guy, He's
an emotional guy. He cries a lot. I notice he cries a lot.
He cried at the end of the Man Show.
I cry a lot too. I think if Jimmy and I got together, we would cry a lot together.
I'd like to get you and Kimmel together and have you watch The Notebook and just see what happened.
Rudy.
Or, well, even Brian's song.
Brian's song,
put Brian's song on and just film you and Kimmel Ball.
But United Negro College Fund commercials. Remember when they first to go to college? I would cry.
The mind is a terrible thing to waste.
There you go.
That's right. Sponsored by Kleenex. Well, all right. The point is when I know somebody, I feel obligated to sort of tell those who are saying what a bad person that person is that they're not. And vice versa. It's a two-way street. Sometimes people go, so-and-so, I like that dude. And I'll go, that dude's a douchebag.
Yeah.
I feel obligated to tune you up.
You like to balance things out.
Wait till you leave,
you
Billy.
Go high,
wait till you leave.
I go low.
Wait till you leave. I'm going to coach everybody
He's such
up.
a prick, that guy.
So you must have felt when Trump derangement syndrome was washing over the nation, you must have felt like, well, I know this guy, and it's not what you think.
Well, the first thing I said when he announced that he was running for president in 2015, I said on live television, because I was doing a daytime live show at the time, and I said, I know this guy. This is a terrible idea. And I'm laughing, and it's mostly, humor that this is craziness. I mean, he was a big reality star. Is there any idea that he would be president of the United States one day? I mean, Snooki was a big reality star at that time.
Right.
There'd be just about the same chances. But then it became, I remember Jon Stewart saying in August, he's like, this is going to be over. It's called a summer fling, folks. It's happened. Everybody laughed. And then it becomes, this reality. But people lost their minds. And when it started to happen, which means there's this week leading up to my firing from NBC where they got a hold of this tape and they were like, you could see them wanting to weaponize it.
So again, walk us through the day. It's 2015, 16. Trying to think. Was it 16 or 15? I'm trying to
16.
2016. We're getting to what month is it?
It's now October. I was fired October. My last day was October 7th.
So this is kind of what they call the October surprise.
Oh yeah,
we're going right into
1 month out
the election. 1 month out.
2 days before the second debate with Hillary.
2 days before the second debate. Right. And Trump is in L.A. and he's going to talk to you.
Well, when he's talking to me on the bus, it's 2005. So this is
right.
It's an 11-year-old tape.
Oh, that's right. It dropped.
And there's
I forgot
so many
about
people
that.
who were like, wait a minute, that's 11 years old? I thought you were, look at me. I'm wearing a baggy suit. My hair is shaggy. I haven't even started shaving yet. Are you kidding me? I'm like a different person.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's 11 years later, but it was sitting around. When that actually happened, I reported it right afterwards. Not reported it like, something terrible has happened on a bus and I need to report this to the superiors. It was more like, oh my God, that animal. Every time it was something, outrageous or funny or whatever it was. He was a caricature of a person, right? This great big blonde real estate guy. He's a huge TV star now. And I say to my boss, I'm like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what he was talking about. He is outrageous. He was talking about Nancy O'Dell and how much he wanted her and he liked her and thought she was hot and stuff. I handled it beautifully, but God, it was crazy. I don't recall him ever saying, grab him by the anything. I never heard that. It was always a personal thing. Like if someone said something about Kimmel and then they went on to say something else, you'd remember the Kimmel part because you're close to Kimmel. So Nancy and I were co-hosts. I remember that. I report it. The next day, my executive producer says, oh my God, the camera wasn't on the bus, but your microphones, the camera was 300 feet away filming the arrival of the bus, but the audio was rolling. I heard everything you told me about. Oh my God, he's crazy. So I said, all right, well, you better put that away. NBC they don't want to hear him doing that. He's the biggest star in the network. So of course it gets tucked away because at this point, he's the cash cow of the network.
Right.
Had it leaked out then, be fired for a different reason.
Right. Right. So now you come up to the eve of the second debate, and somebody knows that tape exists. But it's not that many people, right?
So there's an APB that goes out at NBC, All Points Bulletin, because a woman who was a contestant in the Miss Universe pageant had claimed that Trump did something or said something that was unflattering or not appropriate to her. And Trump responded with, I've never said anything like that about a woman. No, that's not a woman. She's crazy. I don't know what she's talking about. To which NBC says, well, we got a lot of footage between Access Hollywood and The Apprentice and let's anyone find something that refutes that. And remember, at opposing networks at this time, ABC News hired a 75-person team later to investigate and chase down anything that would take down Trump. I mean, this is the beginning of it. And so that goes out, and my executive producer at the time was like, wait a minute, that tape that's in my drawer. Dust it off. It's a VHS tape at this point.
Right.
But wait a minute, here's something. And so he calls him and says, calls NBC in New York, because amazingly, Access Hollywood is the redheaded stepchild of the NBC News division. A part of the division, not a big one. But still, the NBC News Guidelines Handbook comes to everybody. And so they called the general counsel in New York, and he says, hey, I got this thing. It might be what you're looking for. But, and they said, okay, well, let's see a transcript. He calls me in New York. Now I'm at the Today Show at this time. I've look at Big Billy Bush has made his way to the Today Show. How important is he? Fantastic. And he says, hey, Bushy, the network wants, remember the Trump tape? I said, yeah? He says, yeah, they may want to see a transcript of the thing. Don't worry, you don't do anything on the tape. It's nothing to do with you. I said, well, I know. I know. Okay. And he said, but I'll let you know if it goes anywhere. I said, okay. The next day is a Tuesday, the week of the firing, and Matt Lauer comes into my dressing room, which is next to his. And he says, hey, what are you going to do about the tape that that they have up there? I said, huh? What do you mean? Well, things just happened quickly overnight, and the drumbeat of we got him, the drumbeat of gotcha is going. And for the rest of the week, I'm playing catch up. I don't know what's happening. This thing is being weaponized, and it's going to get out. And Matt Lauer says, you should go see the chairman of NBC News. You should go see Andy. I said, well, I think I'll do that. And I run up there and look, I go from Andy Lack, the chairman. I go to Kim Harris, the general counsel, to the 52nd floor. I see, Ted Harbert, the old executive, looking at me. Hey, dead man walking. I don't realize it. But I go up there and they're asking me, I remember the general counsel of NBC News of NBC, the whole corporation asking me, So tell me about this. And I go, well, yeah, no, he was on the bus. He told me these stories. And yeah, I mean, I had nothing to hide. I didn't feel like I was had done anything. So I said, sure, yeah, this all happened. This was 2005. And anyway, it goes on. And one thing after the next, I'm playing catch up the whole time. And finally, it is decided that Access Hollywood will air it on a Thursday night. And they will air it. And my old producer says, don't worry, Bushy, you don't do anything on it. And it's just going to be his parts. And I said, are you an idiot? Trump is going to sue you. He's going to sue NBC. If he loses, he's definitely going to sue. He's the most litigious guy there is. And guess what? You're going to be the fall guy. When something happens in an administration, they look for like a staffer. You know what? It was Natuznewicz's fault. You got to go, buddy. And then they've handled it. This is what you're walking. He realized I might be right. He says to NBC, I'm not airing this thing. He takes a stand. I'm not doing it. So now they're stuck with, what do we do? Well, they're not going to air it themselves. I mean, in what world, if you have the biggest October surprise bomb, do you not air? I mean, you've got it. Why would you give it to someone else?
Right.
You're in a tough competition for clicks and all that. But they know that Trump will sue them. And you've got, in the state of California, right, you have to have dual consent on a recording, all this stuff.
Well, you're talking...
So it just gets scary
You're
for them.
talking the guy who used to have to go to Nevada to do a show called Crank Yankers because we were calling people and you couldn't call them. By the way, same with radio. You can't do those L.A. radio shows where they're doing like prank phone calls.
Ryan's Roses?
Those are all cooked because it's illegal to do it. You can't.
They're fake.
You can't record somebody without them being aware of it. Anyway, so go ahead.
So anyway, yeah. So they realize this is murky waters, but we got to get this out. It's now Thursday afternoon. This needs to get out because tomorrow's Friday. We got to get it out tomorrow because Sunday is the second debate between Donald and Hillary, and this needs to be the primary line of questioning for him. We got to get him with this. So the next day, it come to me, and
do you have a theory as to why all of Hollywood and the powers that be aligned to decide that they must endeavor to not get him elected president? It was kind of curious that how they found so much unanimous. It was unanimous. It was like our mission from this point on is to not get this guy elected. And I was always like, it's interesting that they all arrived at that same conclusion.
Well, yeah, that's why ABC or CBS doesn't go after NBC and say, how could you do this? I mean, look what they did to. They all would have done it.
Of course.
They're all united in that mission that this guy is too gauche and boorish and he should never be president. He's, disgrace. He's this, he's that. He's all. So no one's calling them out. That was probably the hardest thing for me is like, no one comes to your defense. Like no one stepped. Eventually everyone does later, but not when it matters.
So now, when do you realize or when do you find out they got to let you go? And then what is the reason that is given?
So when it leaks out, Washington Post is published it. So it was leaked to them by NBC News. And it goes out. I'm on an airplane when it happens. I'm looking at the thing. I get a million texts. You're good. You're good. We got you covered. You're good. Like, don't worry. You didn't do anything. And that's from the highest levels. That's the head of corporate communications. That's the show publicist. That's the president of news and the general manager of the Today Show. You're good. And then it sort of just takes on a life of its own. There's an optical element to that tape that does not look good on me. I don't look good in it, but of course, context of what was actually happening is completely lost.
Well, I also kind of tell people all the time, let's just say you're at a sports bar and you're having a few beers and you don't think anyone is listening. And then some guy tells you something you disagree with. Maybe it's a racist joke or maybe it's a misogynistic joke or something like that.
Or drunk Uncle Larry at the Thanksgiving table.
What have you. I say almost every human being, including myself, does like a fake laugh and then thinks, this guy is kind of an idiot, and then makes some, I got to use the bathroom, and then you just kind of wander out, But nobody I know would give that person some sort of morals discussion on the spot. Like, you don't use those kind of terms in front of me, or I have a daughter, or I have many friends in the African-American community. You just go, yeah, okay, all right. Because we've all done that 1,000 times. Anybody played high school sports, anybody hung around with drunken dudes, everyone knew that dude. It wasn't your job.
You just want to survive the moment and get on.
That's right.
Of course.
Right. So you give, but by the way, it looks bad because you give a fake laugh when they tell their insensitive whatever, and then you move on.
Right, and then you move on. But now this is out there for the world to consume. So it just doesn't look good, whatever. And the Today Show is not a place that's got a thick constitution for anything uncomfortable. Or look, they're in a shrinking world, and they're competing against other shows, and the winner is the one who shrinks the slowest.
Right, in terms of viewership.
Right, so like, is Billy Bush, who just got here 2 months ago, expendable? 1 month ago at that point? 2 months ago at that point, expendable? Yes, he is. Of course he is.
Right, and we're also living in a world where everyone wants to make a statement about taking action. Like, this guy was relieved. That's the funny one. It's the suspended with pay. Well, we took this officer and we suspended him for 2 weeks with pay. And I'm always like, that doesn't sound like much of a punishment. but to you snapped into action. You did something. They did something, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, they did, and then I had to.
So you get called in. You're on the airplane. Sorry. This stuff's all coming in.
Yeah, so anyway, I land. TMZ is there to greet me. Such a wonderful greeting. Camera up my ass as I make my way to a car that NBC security has sent. Then I go home, and I'm told all weekend that things are great. In fact, Saturday, so sure that I was okay because I didn't do anything, even though it's everywhere, is I'm buying suits. I'm buying suits for the Today Show because I'm a big deal now, and I got to have some suits for my new gig. And then Sunday, the guy, my driver, is in the driveway to take me to the airport, and he says, "Hey, they just canceled me. I'm sorry." I said, "I got to go." I said, "What do you mean canceled you?"
Canceled the driver.
So that's how I found out that I realized things were not going well. Monday, they pulled me off the air. By the following Friday, we are in a conference room at my lawyer's office with a litigator, NBC litigator, and then there's the settlement and the thing and the...
So they settled out.
Yeah.
And you didn't sue them for wrongful termination.
No.
And
I should have.
And are you married at the time?
Yep.
And how's that going?
Well, that was its own thing. People kind of think, I am divorced now. Is it because of that? And had nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. She wasn't. Of course, they write stories that are like, oh, she's even outraged at this thing, which is crazy. So that never been more supportive.
It wasn't a form. It wasn't a friction in the relationship.
Not at all.
Because that's when it gets from painful to unbearable.
But you're in a period now, because it's a feeding frenzy where you're reading all kinds of stories. You read he was mean to a girl in 8th grade.
Right. Yeah.
Literally, that came out.
Right. So, you then.
But listen, let me be clear about one thing. I don't have grievances at this point. I'm not. I've talked about this a bit. I think you're fascinated with it. I get it. I've been through the process. I got great stuff going on. Life is a shit sandwich. Eat it or starve. Everybody has something that's going to hit them hard. You could have an ill child, something in your family. I don't know. This was a shitstorm for me. If you haven't had one in your life, you're going to. I hope that you're better prepared for yours than I was for mine.
So now you're out of work and a little bit unemployable, right?
Oh, yeah. No. The phone's not ringing. There's a lot of, Billy, you're a great guy. We love you. You're so terrific. It's just not really the right time. And I'm going, no, wait a minute. I got to get back. What consumed me, in retrospect, I wish I just went to Sweden and opened a bar and did something different and enjoyed this time of life where they gave me some money and I went and did something wonderful. But instead, I sat and drank like a fish and pulled my hair out and said, you betrayal, God damn it, I can't believe what's happened. And I just melted down. Mm-hmm. I ended up in a mental health place. I mean, I literally couldn't believe that my life had turned upside down in an instant. And I was a sad sack and a loser and pissed and all that.
Were you financially okay? Was this
at the point? Yeah, I know there was enough runway that we thought it was going to be.
This was mostly all emotional and not so much, pragmatic material. Like, hey man, I got to pay the bills.
At the time, it was emotional. They gave me money to pay the bills for the what it ended up being longer than I thought to get back into the game.
Was it 3 years?
Yeah, 2 years and 11 months until I got back on the air.
Wow.
And I was determined. What I should have done is just gone right into Hot Mics with Billy Bush and done my podcast right then and there. But I was so determined to get back into the mainstream. Darn it, you bullshit. You're going to take me back, damn it. And it worked, but it took a long time. And I wasted a lot of time. No regrets, Adam. Everything happens at the right time, I guess. I don't know.
So you're out. You got enough, but mentally, I get it. There's something about feeling like you got jobbed that is real hard to get past. Now, you
jobbed by a shitty person. You know what I mean? Like
are you talking about Trump? Or are you talking about
no? Trump, I have no problem. People assume that I have problems with Trump. Not at all. They tried to get him. I'm
right.
I'm the
Who's the person who jobbed? You were talking about
the chairman of NBC News, Andy Lack, who's just a real shit.
Well, so here's what I'm saying, and I don't know. Shit happens in life, and you could be sitting at an intersection in your car, and teen driver could be texting and rear end you at 40 miles an hour.
It's called Beef. It's a great show.
Oh yeah. and really screw you up. But you didn't get jobbed by somebody. You know what I mean? You just had somebody fuck up and they wish they didn't do it too. You know what I'm saying? Like there's accidents, there's things, and then there's somebody just screwing you. And I find personally the handful of times when I got jobbed by somebody, that's the part I'm not turning the page on, or I can't just sort of turn the other cheek. Like that's the stuff that sticks with you. The injuries, the accidents, the shit happens. That's part of life. But it's like you think about that person and you go, what the... I did this for them. I provided that for them. Like we had this kind of relationship. Like how could they have done this?
Although I did a lot of work, man. I did a lot of work on forgiveness and just in understanding myself better. I mean, I come out a better person. I hate to say it. I'm not thanking Andy Lack or anyone else at NBC News for this lovely life experience. They don't get credit for being great teachers and educators, but it is the fact. I have made amends, forgiven everyone in the whole process, except Andy Lack, the chairman of NBC News, because he's an asshole and he never apologized. And everyone else did. The guy that worked for him, who was the president and GM at the time, he apologized and said, "I'm so sorry, Jesus Christ, this got so far away from us. I don't know what happened. If you never speak to me again," I said, "It's okay. We all make mistakes." My executive producer at Access Hollywood, who sent the darn tape, he greeted you at the door. He's my producer of Hot Mics. I forgave him, but I didn't speak to him for a year and a half. I gave him a Rolex watch. With my new job at the Today Show, I bought a Rolex for my producer of Access Hollywood for 15 years, and I said, Thanks for helping me get to where I am now, where I'm going. This is so exciting. Gave him a Rolex. After this thing happened, I said, give me the damn Rolex back. I took it back. I was so mad. But I've forgiven him. I've hired him. You know, I mean, it's like anyone else. But this guy was just, it was reported to me by a very reliable source who was there. When they said, what are you going to do about Billy Bush? He's a good guy. He didn't do anything here. You should probably, you know, you've saved Brian Williams before. You've saved Matt Lauer on countless occasions. Why don't you, what are you going to do about Billy? He's a good guy. Fuck Billy Bush, is what he said. And I said, okay. So he won't apologize ever. And so I think, you know, just for fuel's sake, let's just keep one little corner for him. I can keep a little negative space for that guy. Is that okay?
Listen, I'm 1,000% fine with that.
A little.
Which is
it's not a lot. I never think of him until you bring him up.
Sorry. Look, if you apologize for me, like I said, turn the page. All is forgiven. I can handle that. It's the non-apology people who job you.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that
even if he said, look,
get the ire.
Look, I jobbed you. I like the term job, by the way. You love the term job.
I don't use it that much, but
you used it with me. When you came to my show, you used the term to job. And I've never heard the verb to job.
I don't recall that. That's weird.
If you had said, I jobbed you, I feel badly about it. I'm sorry. Shit got away from us, and I'm sorry. I would have said, okay, fine. Now just find another place in the company for me and let me have a job again.
Right.
You don't have to, like, ghost me.
Well, also, the news cycle is so fast that we are 4 days away from everyone turning the page and moving on to the next outrage or whatever's going on. You really...
But not for the jobber. The jobbie. The jobbie it doesn't get to turn the page.
No, what I'm saying is well, a couple things. Some of it is happenstance. Like there is I'm trying to think. I always think about this. There was Gary Condit, the politician, and he had the affair with the young Chandra Levy, and she died or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
And there's a whole thing. And then there's Paula Poundstone, comedian Paula Poundstone.
Yeah, I remember her.
She got accused of like having kids over and drinking and driving with them in the car and being inappropriate with them and like some real nasty career-ending shit. Her court, the day that stuff came out in court, was 9/11.
Oh, my God.
So everyone just went, Paula who?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So some of it is, if the Billy Bush thing drops with Trump and then 9/11's the next day, you're off.
Yeah, Farrah Fawcett died, and then an hour later, Michael Jackson
died. Right. And so some of it is just crazy happenstance, but the cycle moves pretty quickly. So if they just hang out with you for a week, something is going to happen that'll pull it off.
Here's the problem. CNN, MSNBC, they got this tape now, and they roll it back every time Trump says one thing or looks a different way or something with a woman, and they just roll this back. So it is a constant, loop. And
do you think
that takes a long time.
The Bush name may have hurt you a little bit in this construct? I mean, in this...
At the Today Show?
No, not at the Today Show, but I mean, the idea that at that point, people were getting into a sort of Trump derangement frenzy, and you needed to speak out vocally against Trump. Otherwise, you would get put into some category of Trump supporter, devotee, and then punished. And the fact that you come, from a famous family that's Republican, and the fact that you were a Trump, ally, friend, whatever.
He had
whatever
just
it
called
is.
my cousin Jeb low energy Jeb. He had no love for Bushes.
That's true. But in the eyes of the guy who ran NBC, do you think if you had been more vocal or politically different, let's just say, he may have spared you?
That's interesting. I don't think so. I often think of this. It happened on a Friday. If it happened on a Thursday and I was on the air the next morning and I got to explain, and this is what was happening, it's not good. I apologize for the way I look in this whole thing. It isn't great. But this is what, was happening at the time. If you had a chance then maybe, but the weekend swallows you up. Then Monday comes and they don't, they've suspended me for Monday. They won't, so they silence me. Then they pay me. They want this story to build, and they want it to be as outrageous as it can be.
And they don't want some sort of explanation.
If I was at Access Hollywood,
they don't want context.
I wouldn't have been fired if I was at Access Hollywood still.
Right.
But the fact that I was fresh chum at the Today Show, and there's a lot of Today Show politics. Lauer runs the place at this time, and does he want me, bopping around the joint? No, he likes it when I'm at Access Hollywood promoting him and his next special. He doesn't love that I'm taking the mic as soon as he walks out of the studio. I walk in and say, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today. So I was beyond expendable.
Has Lauer been Me Too'd now and is somewhere in exile?
I mean, I don't dance on any of that. I did have a conversation with Matt after I left. He called me and feigned concern for me. And I let him have it. And after I let him have it, then months later, when he got in trouble and fired, and I did send him a message saying, "Okay, how are you doing? You holding up? Whatever. Here are 3 books you should read."
Really?
Yeah, called "In the Process of Putting Your Life Back Together." Don't know if you ever read them, but
you went to the Hoffman Institute?
I did.
How is that? I've heard about it. I hear bits and snippets about it, but I don't really know what it entails.
Well, out of respect for anyone who's been or who wants to go, I think the magic is in the reveal, because you build up, over a week to a crescendo, and there's a it reveals things about you. But I will say,
you went there because you were at a kind of low point.
Oh, yeah. No, I couldn't put one foot in front of the other. I was, I'd had a recent moment on the balcony of this, apartment building I was in. I just felt like very unstable. And I was just trying to stay afloat. I was hiding in a building. Funny story. I'm hiding in this tower living in Santa Monica. And I'm on the 11th floor or whatever. And I'm hiding every day I go in because paparazzi love to film me and follow me. And for a month, I, have my visor down low, my sunglasses, my hat over, high. No one notices me in the building. I'm good. I'm private. I get into the communal laundry room on the 11th floor, and this old man comes in, and he's in there, I'm in there, and we're jogging around each other, small space, and he says, "Are you Billy Bush?" And he's like 80. And I'm like, oh man, shit! I made it a month. This is and I'm outed by this guy. I say, yeah, and he goes, "Listen, I'm really sorry. I think I canceled your cable." I said, "Shit, my cable did get canceled. Why would you do that? That was you?" And he goes, "Yeah, because I have DirecTV." And I said, "Yeah, we don't have to go cancel my cable. Who are you? What's your name?" And he says, "Same." I said, "You're Billy Bush?" Oh. And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, we got a whack job in here. This is not good." I said, "Will you do me a favor? I don't mean to be rude, but will you go, can I see your ID?" And he said, "Sure." And the old fellow walks down the hall and he gets his license and he comes back and he hands it to me and it says, "William G. Bush." And I'm like, oh my God, and he's my next door neighbor. You got 2 Billy Bushes living next to each other. This old guy turns out to be the father of the chairman of Northrop Grumman.
Wow.
Down the street, and his son, put him up here because he wanted his dad to be close to him. I mean, this is, I'm hiding in this place. And then finally I'm like, I got to get my one foot in front of the other. I've got to do something. My brother had been to the Hoffman Institute years ago for his own reason when he got divorced. And it's just a place where people can learn to walk again, emotionally paralyzed people. And I went to this place, and the day that Trump walked into the Oval Office is the day that I walked into Hoffman Institute.
How long was the process?
It's 9 days.
Mm-hmm.
And, you turn your phone in and you get with small groups and large groups, and it's experiential. And you learn about your life and your own negative patterns and what happened in your life between the ages of 0 and 13. And it informs you of everything, because everything comes from your parents. You either in life act in total rejection of who your parents are and do the complete opposite, or you become them. And
I went the rejection route.
You
myself.
rejected. I'm not going to be like that asshole you said, or her, or them.
Yeah, my parents were not impressive people by any stretch of the imagination, but they were never aggressively bad. I was just like, that doesn't seem like the way to go. I went the shun route. I'm just opposite.
Well, it worked. You're somebody, damn it.
I don't know. I don't know if it worked, but.
This got me walking again. This got me one foot in front of the other.
What was your 0 to 13 experience like?
Listen, good. By the way, I'm in a group with people. In my group, there's a 27-year-old young woman who's been terrible things happened to her when she was a girl. And we're in this experiential moment doing this anger exercise together in a group full of people. You really have to check your humility at the door. You've got to be bold to participate in this stuff. And I'm starting to feel like, whoa, okay, I got fired, canceled, whatever. And here's this girl, she's gone through I started to feel like, wait a minute, perspective here.
Yeah, she said
some
real
people in
trauma.
here have real trauma. And so it helped me realize, okay, get going, man. Get going one step after the other. In the end, the best thing that happened to me in the 3 years off, Adam, I did something I never would have done. I pulled myself together to take each of my 3 daughters on a 2-week dad-daughter trip somewhere in the world, and I let them choose. So NBC, thank you for footing the bill of that. It was wonderful.
And so your 0 to 13 was pretty positive.
Yeah, I'd say overall. I mean, like you find out, was my dad a little emotionally unavailable? Okay, but so what? He was home for dinner every night. Did he say, I love you? No. He just showed it by being there and taking me to sports. Like, it's not that big a deal for me. But you learn why you are the way you are, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because at some point, you do a lot of hypotheses. There's a lot of hypotheses about nature and nurture and who you are and how you are. And then you have boy-girl twins like I did. And then you realize how different two people can be who were raised under the same roof by the same two parents, Yeah. And a nanny. But mostly the nanny. But I
like that you admit that.
Mostly the nanny. But you go, oh, these are two totally different people, and their temperament. It's like saying, well, there's a Chihuahua and a Labrador, and you go, yeah, they're both dogs, right? And you go, yeah, they are, but they are very different in terms of their temperament. And then you keep going, well, how did you raise the Chihuahua? It's like, nope, same. They got raised in the same kennel,
yeah,
but they are very different. And my son is just detuned. He's wired. He's laid back in his wiring, and I'm detuned in my wiring. And my daughter's like up on her feet and wants to know what's going on. Like, she's the kind of person that would go, hey, can me and my friends come over and stay in Malibu, Saturday? And then you text her back, I'm in a meeting, but let me check it out. And then 10 minutes later, she'd write you back again going, what's going on?
No, yeah.
She called me yesterday. I talked to her yesterday. She goes, what's going on? She wanted me to pay for something, but she was also like, what's going on? What's going on? Wait, can you Venmo me some money? I go, hold on. I go, listen. She goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm going to Corona. Oh, no, wait a minute. Where'd I go? Sorry.
Covina.
Covina. I said, I'm going to Covina. I'm doing a show I got to do a show tonight in Covina. I'm doing a stand-up show in Covina at the Laugh Factory. She goes, yeah, okay. So then I'm getting out of my car in front of the club at 7, and there's a bunch of moving parts, and people are lined up and stuff, and she's blowing up my phone. What's going on? Why don't you call me back? I get into the club. People are like, hey, Adam. I call, like, listen, I'm in Covina. I'm at the club. I have to do a show tonight. She's going, how come you didn't call me back? I go, people are like, Adam, come this way. Come to the green. I go, I'm at a club. I'm doing a show.
Why don't you just say goodbye?
No, I know. But the point is if I said to my son, I'm doing a show now, I'll call you later. He'd go, okay,
cool.
And he'd hang up the phone, and then he'd wait. And you'd never hear from him again. And then, so they have, by the way, one is not inherently better than the other. There's a good argument for the motor. Chillax guy. And then people go, I said, my son is 18 and a half. How many arguments you had with your son? None. 0?
Yeah.
0? Why? Because I'm wired like I'm wired, and then he's wired like he's wired, and now we got 2 Labradors. And there's no arguing because he doesn't say anything. And I don't say anything. And like, I'll say to him, like, hey, you want to go to dinner Saturday night? And he'll go, nah, I'm hanging with my friends. And I'll go, okay.
Please?
And he'll go, okay. And he goes, yeah, I kind of want to hang with my friends. And I'll go, okay.
Okay.
And that's about it. I went to the UFC fight. Got him tickets for Christmas to the UFC fight the other weekend, up somewhere in the arena. Good tickets. But at some point, I got offered tickets on the floor with Kevin Costner and Mel Gibson and all the cool guys. And I'm just sitting on the floor with all the cool guys. And my son texts me. He's like, oh, where are you sitting? I said, I'm sitting on the floor. Oh, okay. All right. See ya.
And your daughter would have been like,
my daughter would have been like, where are you? I'm coming down there. You better get me in. Who are you sitting with? What's going on?
Nobody good.
Right. So you realize that a lot of the nurture that you hear about, which is definitely something, I'm now leaning more nature. And like I said, when you have twins and you really start to study just how different two
you
people
run a zone
can be.
They are who they are. You run zone defense and you give them a structure and they're good.
Yeah. And I like you, or me and my sister were just very different and went in very different directions. Your brother and you?
Same, very different. Very different. And now best friends, adversarial kind of, we fought a lot when we were little, not tight. And then amazingly, when your shit falls apart is when now we're the very best of friends. First, he went through a horrible divorce and he came to me and he collapsed and realized he was losing his wife and he fell apart and he had to go to a medical, healthcare conference. He's a very big, successful healthcare executive. Before he got fired and canceled. Not really canceled, but fired. Moved out by an activist investor, let's say. But I went with him to his conference. I called in to work and said, I'm not coming in. I have to be with my brother. And he and I went to this conference in Palm Springs. And I was on the phone with him every day after that till he was healed. And then when my world fell apart, he did the same thing for me. And we became best friends.
That's a wonderful story.
So there's he's my ride or die, and I'm so grateful for that. Again, Andy Lack and NBC, you did not get credit for this, but yes, I am not afraid to see the good that comes out of things.
Here's an unanswerable question.
Oh, and now the unanswerables.
Does anyone feel sorry for Billy Bush? Because Billy Bush is good looking. His last name is Bush. He seems to always be this guy.
He's fireable. Let's be honest. You're onto something here.
I'm fireable, but there's certain people where you see him and you kind of go, oh, that poor guy. I feel bad for him. And then there are guys, and I don't know that you're the poster child for this, but you're up there, where people just don't feel sorry for you because
No.
they go, look at that
I don't
guy.
even feel
He's
sorry for me.
good.
Yeah.
Just look at him. He's good looking. He's got a famous family. He's got money. Why are we even
fair.
thinking about him emotionally coming unraveled? Who feels sorry for that guy? Is there
That's
an
right.
element of that?
That's 100%. Sure. Like you're not a sympathetic character. I think at the time you're not a sympathetic. And then later things come around, in time, and then people. I will say that 99% of my interactions are super positive and supportive. So it might have helped me in that regard to be, I don't know, more people. Again, here we go. But another little thing that comes out that's good is maybe people have more of an affinity to someone who's had their ass handed to them. Mm-hmm. And there is, in my line of work, which is similar to yours, it is helpful to know what it feels like to be down. Mm-hmm. I really believe that. And I think I was living a very charmed sort of life, kissing celebrity ass on red carpets and such. And then your world falls apart completely, and mine 360. Then maybe they, okay. You know what? I actually like that guy. What the hell? I did like him. And
Yeah.
So you can't control that, but I think there's definitely that arc in there.
Yeah.
And by the way, God's fair. Okay? I got good hair. Mm-hmm. All right. You said handsome. That was nice
I
of
did.
you.
I believe that.
There's like 5 things a man can have. All right?
Mm-hmm.
But no one gets all 5, Adam.
I got 5 inches.
That's good.
I got all 5.
The whole 5, baby. You can be rich. You want to be rich, handsome, tall, hung, right?
I'm writing this
Great
down.
personality. You can't have them all. You can get
No.
4. I've seen guys with 4, maybe 4.5.
Wow, to be truthful, I'm a little closer to 4.5 than
I know.
5.
I know.
Yeah, so I always think about you, like, and who we decide to be sympathetic to.
Yeah.
And I also realize I'm not a sympathetic character either, because I do sort of marvel sometimes that people say horrible things to me quite a bit. And I always kind of think to myself, what is it about me that makes you feel okay with saying horrible things about me, like to me? And then I realize it's probably a weird compliment, and that they just feel like you're impervious to this stuff because you're confident or smart or funny or whatever it is.
I would think, there's nothing you can say to Adam Carolla that's going to hurt him or knock him down, that you're pretty tough.
Here's what I can tell you. Once I decide I am correct on a subject, then there's no amount of hate you can throw my way. I just went all the way through COVID yelling super unpopular things into a microphone and tweeting very unpopular things and getting yelled at by everybody, but I knew I was right. So if I know I'm right, then it doesn't matter to me. Now, it sounds evolved, but it's not really that evolved. If I sat in a room with 100 people and 99 of them said 2 and 2 is 5, I would say 2 and 2 is 4, and then they'd all turn and look at me, and then some would get angry, and then they would ask that I be removed from the room or whatever it is, and I would just go, that's your business, but I'm right. And I don't care how many of you don't like what I'm saying, I'm still right, and I don't care. And that's the way I feel. Now, if I feel wrong, then there's an issue. But as long as I know I'm right,
and you were, I mean, then
I was, then I didn't care.
I would never have had the balls to tweet, this is bullshit. Why are we wearing masks? Why am I standing 6 feet apart from someone? Why are we shutting down schools? Why are we, I felt it, and I often didn't have my mask on, but I wouldn't have said it, I don't think.
Well,
we're sheep.
There's
most of us.
also I don't say sheep per se, but I will say you're in a business that's relying on people certainly in that period, you're looking to be hired and to stay hired. You know what I mean? And it's a very real threat to be removed from your livelihood. And that's a very real situation that has to be weighed in. Everyone likes to do that. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah, well, whether you're a cop or you're an entertainment host, getting shit canned, that's a pretty big consequence.
I don't mind being fired. I've been fired before. But that way, in that nefarious slide a tape to the Washington Post and screw a guy that's been at the company for 15 years, that kind of dirtiness,
I agree.
I don't know why it has to be so dirty. Why can't they come to me and say, this is a shitstorm. We're going to leak it out there. We love you. You're a great guy. We want you to get out in front of it and talk about this thing, this moment, but we got your back because you're human and we love you and you don't have to get your ass handed to you. I would say, oh, I see. So this is happening. All right, well, I'll talk about what it was, and that's great. Thanks for standing with me. It has to be done in the dark and slid, and then they have to have their PR people pile on you with other stories so that it reinforces that they got rid of a bad apple.
Well, this is my final, before we'll get into some news. I hope you stick around for that. But it's what I'm feeling, but I'm not articulating as well as I could, which is to say, I just went through a shitty divorce, and if I got caught cheating or had a gambling problem or something of that nature, then I would take my lumps. But that wasn't the case. And then I got jobbed. And so that doesn't sit well. But I've often said, look, if I was out there doing a bunch of really shitty stuff and then this, then I guess I would kind of deserve it and I could sort of digest it. And if Billy Bush was driving drunk and killed some kid coming home from school and then they went, we got to let you go, Billy, because this looks bad, then you would live with that and you would understand actions have consequences. You know what I mean? But that wasn't what happened to you. You got jobbed. You know what I mean? And that's sort of different than I got drunk at the Christmas party and dropped my pants and told my boss to blow me, and now I'm fired.
I did do that too, but it was...
I'm saying feeling like you did something that kind of deserved this versus getting jobbed.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't sit well, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think that. I think that is the source of the burn and the source of the pain, and it's a violent act to do that to someone. And I vociferously stand up for people getting jobbed these days.
The
That's
other version
part
of
my
this
thing.
is you got drunk, you killed some kid walking home from school, and you're now going to have to live with that, which is a different kind of regret and pain.
Life is unfair, though. Billy Bush is not moaning and crying to this. He's answering Adam Carolla's questions because he loves Adam Carolla and likes being in conversation with you. But Billy Bush is not whining and bitching about his life now. He's learned some great lessons. He's now going third person, completely third person.
I'll write that
but
down.
the Bushman believes that... I really do. I feel like I'm a blessed guy. I'm a lucky guy. And yes, I got jobbed. But you know what? Larry got jobbed. And I'm seeing this guy in the middle. He got jobbed. Look at him. Many people get jobbed.
Yes.
And I'm going to be saying jobbed for the rest of my life, baby. It's so good.
All right. Well, Mayhem Miller's out there, and he's got some news, and I hope Billy will hang out and help us do the job of commenting on the news.
Yeah.
Right after this. 1-800-Flowers Valentine's Day is coming up, and there's only one place I trust, 1-800-Flowers.com this year. I'm partnering with 1-800-Flowers to make sure your Valentine's Day, that you end up looking like a hero with an exclusive offer. Double the roses for free. Now, when I was young and poor, roses were really expensive, and now Well, especially with 1-800-Flowers. They've come down a lot, and you get 24 instead of 12. All the roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak, cared for every step of the way, and shipped fresh to ensure long-lasting beauty. Win the Valentine's Day hearts this year with 1-800-Flowers.com. That's right. Make her happy. 1-800-Flowers.com and get double the roses. Right, Dawson?
To claim your Double Your Roses offer, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Adam. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Adam. Here's a memorable moment from the Adam Carolla Show's Ace Awards archives.
And my mom was a background singer on the Perry Como show, and she sang "Letters, We Get Letters."
Really?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you say AM, PM, too much good stuff? 'Cause I feel like you sound like that guy.
Yeah, let me see if I can sound like him. AM, PM, too much good fucking stuff.
Is that you?
Yeah, baby.
Oh, it's not written down anywhere.
You are
I
a
don't
genius.
think it is.
Oh, I thought you were just goofing it because you knew.
I
You just got a good ear. That's why. It's
But
my,
you
it's
sound-
my
it's like-
18th year with them.
Jesus Christ.
It's a steady gig. And my dad, since he was an announcer, I asked him, when I started doing that, I said, "You got any advice?" He said, "Yeah, show up early, work quickly, have no opinions, and don't give anybody any crap."
The 2025 Ace Awards, coming this December. Now back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Billy Vera from Billy and the Beaters. And yes, I have a sonic gift that if I start hearing people, I'll attach it to something else. And I knew he was the AM PM guy.
God, I love that. I love playing that game. Whose voice is that? Is
Right.
that John Hamm?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what my least favorite human being is? Not a single person, but just type of human being. Where you find a picture of somebody and you go, doesn't that guy look like Christopher Reeves? That looks like Christopher Reeves, doesn't it? And the person looks at it and goes, that doesn't look anything like Christopher Reeves. Like, all right, you just said I was insane. You basically said I was insane. You can say, yeah, I can see it a certain angle. I know people that just look and they go, that looks nothing.
But
like
nothing's
Christopher
better
Reeves.
than the cross between. Oh, that guy is a cross between so-and-so and so-and-so. The perfect blend. You're like, no, I don't see it.
That's half the
But
comedy
when it's
over here.
dead nuts on, no, but see, to me, I like, now you got to find James Von Prague, who is the gay Larry Zonka, because I like a little extra twist
yeah.
to it. It's not just
Exactly,
he
yeah.
looks like Larry Zonka. He looks like Larry Zonka if Larry Zonka was gay. That's who he looks like. And I need my Chris Carter and Godzuki. That's it. I mean, if Larry Zonka was gay,
That is with
I'm not saying James Von Prague is gay.
Oh, that
I'm
is-
saying if Larry Zonka was gay, he would look like James Von Prague.
I was thinking if Mike Ditka was gay.
wow.
There's
Yeah.
more
Too
Zonka.
much? Okay, Zonka.
With a sprinkling of Butkus. I mean,
You're right.
Yeah, we need Larry Zonka. We need an A and a B. So, but we also need Chris Carter and Godzuki because that's where I really make my bones. You know what I mean? Because now I've stepped outside of the human realm and into the realm of fiction and puppamation with Godzuki, which is Godzilla's son. That's
and we
where-
all agree that Arthur and John Legend, right? That was a big one that went around for a while.
Sweater guy. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the eyes out and the whole.
Exactly.
He was in the singing group at UPenn. The men's
know
a cappella.
He was.
Yeah, John Legend's. That's his. He was a whatever they called themselves, the Pentones or something.
Oh, really?
Bum, 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 bum,
Mr.
bum.
Sandman.
Bring me a dream. Boom, 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 boom.
We've got our bass. He's here.
Oh, there they are.
There we go. Yeah, Arthur. Spot on.
All right, news.
Got
Mayhem.
some news. You guys might not be following it, but I guarantee your girlfriend is. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds asked court to silence Justin Baldoni's lawyer. I got more headlines. Blake Lively, has a lawsuit going. The Raw It ends with us scene. Justin claims it refutes Blake's sexual harassment claim. And another headline, Blake Lively rips Justin Baldoni for It Ends With Us video. Damning clip proves me right.
Well, I don't know. Billy, this is your beat, right?
Yeah.
I will say this.
Glad you're here.
The thing about this story is whoever's speaking, I kind of believe them. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's right. Look at this guy. He's definitely nuzzling in there a little close. How creepy. You want to go in there while she's breastfeeding. And then you see like, he shows the texts and he's like, no, she texted me, come in. He said, are you sure you're breastfeeding? She said, yes, come in. And you're like, well, what are you talking about? She set him up. I mean, I just keep ping-ponging back and forth
It's
between
a
the
big
two.
thing. He kept a lot of receipts, and now he's showing them.
I agree. I know. So what
But
happens
his lawyer
is
is a beast, this guy, 179-page thing. This is like the most detailed lawsuit that Brian Friedman, who's represented all the aggrieved, has put out.
Well, I agree with you. Like the first thing is like he went and talked to her personal trainer about how much she weighed, and you go, oh man, that's not
creepy.
a good look. And then it's like, oh, but he had a horrible back issue and had to pick her up and didn't want to in a scene and didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
And then so that's the same as the breastfeeding one, right? He
So
came in while I was breastfeeding. Right.
So he could practice on someone else, not be in the scene and go, oh, ow, my back. And then she says, I just had a baby. And then the whole thing falls apart.
Right. It's starting to look to me like the scales are tipping his direction.
I would agree.
And
people on TikTok are reading out the whole indictment and the court paperwork, and they're going. I don't know. They're trying to paint a picture that she was being really, I guess, high maintenance and very terrible, and then went so far as to take Justin Baldoni's movie over, sort of. He picked this story up out of, he read the book and kind of committed to the project. Then she took it over with Ryan Reynolds' help. And then at the red carpet, they ended up sticking him and his family in the basement for the premiere. It's a whole thing.
The amazing thing is the movie did really well. It made $350 million.
It's a good movie.
Oh, it did.
Why don't you guys you should never have gotten to this point. You should be making a sequel. Isn't it all about money? It's about money, right? Let me make a sequel.
Well, listen, Ryan Reynolds, I've said many times, F you money is good, but F me money is better. So like Elon Musk has F me money.
Oh, yeah.
So someone goes, you're going to buy Twitter, yeah. What do you think it's worth? $23 billion. What'd you pay? $45 billion?
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot. Yeah, I got F me money. I want Twitter. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with that.
Ryan Reynolds has F me money, and they probably have F me money from his other endeavors in business, not to mention just what he's making.
Everything the guy does is a cell phone company,
Right.
gin company.
Right. So they can go to war for no reason, even if it costs them a lot of money. But it also, I said, I don't know Ryan Reynolds well, but I did do a episode of his TV show back when he was doing
Two
a TV
guys,
show.
a girl, and a pizza?
Yeah, Pizza Place.
Okay. Whatever.
And I was the star of the episode. Well, I played myself in the episode. And he was there. And he was a very sweet guy. Very sweet guy, but this is pre-Ryan Reynolds blowing up. This is Ryan Reynolds on a sitcom that's, middle-of-the-road sitcom, not superstar Ryan Reynolds. And so I don't know if he's evolved into a different personality, but the young Ryan Reynolds on Two Guys, a Girl, and the Pizza Place was just super nice, chillax,
I mean,
friendly
Chris
guy.
Pratt was on Parks and Rec. Look at
Right.
him. He's every superhero.
Right.
He's in everything.
Yeah. So this is starting to feel like, it feels like it's more her than him, Ryan Reynolds, and then more than Baldoni.
Yeah, the guy was second on the call sheet for Jane the Virgin or something, and now he becomes this director, and maybe there's this feeling that, they Bigfooted him and said, who are you? You're
that's what's going on
you're-
TikTok. They're saying exactly that. And
Jane the Virgin
they're saying
guy?
even that they modeled the character Nice Pool after Justin Baldoni to kind
Right.
of troll him and make fun of him.
Well, he calls himself a feminist, and he wears the "I am a feminist"
Man
T-shirt,
bun.
and he's man bunning, and he's like, he's a
Yeah.
little annoying as a
No,
guy.
he gave a TED talk. I'm so tired of dudes going, it takes a real man to cry. It takes a real man to admit he's a piece of shit. It takes a real. I'm like, fuck that. First off, we're getting into trouble because we got too many dudes turning into chicks. This is an issue, and also I just look at his just ass kissery of the highest order. These are the celebrities that get up there and they get Academy Award and they go, my 3-year-old daughter has taught me more about courage. Then it's like, oh yeah, right, okay, shut the fuck up. And stop pretending that your wife is 10 times smarter than you or 10 times whatever. Just fucking knock it off.
But you're missing, there's an element here that's kind of juicy for people, and that is when Reynolds and Lively call Baldoni to their penthouse suite in New York, her best friend Taylor Swift happens to be there that night, and she, the Baldoni suit alleges, heavy-handed him into taking Blake's rewrites. These are way better. Trust me, you should do this. And now you got Lively. You've got Reynolds and Swift. These are 3 giant. Yeah. And here's second on the call sheet at Jane the Virgin. Like, okay.
Right.
Who am I in this room? Who is anyone in that room?
That's why we kept you for the news, Bush.
I'm a newsman.
We got Zonka and James Rod Brock next to each other, by the way, just so we can... put that one to bed.
Why did I argue? I don't know who's who.
It's gay, Larry.
You're
Zonka.
right.
That's
You're right.
the part. That's the genius.
Happier.
That should be mentioned at the funeral. You know what I mean? It wasn't just that he picked Von Prague.
It's Larry Zonka if he were in Pirates of the Penzance. It's...
All right, we got enough. We've done enough. All right, yes.
Leave Larry alone.
Leave Larry alone. Yeah, good name for a sitcom.
We got some more news in the world of celebrity. Yankees legend Mariano Rivera and wife Clara deny covering up child sex abuse after a bombshell lawsuit. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, this is strange. 4 years later, after a sort of like church kind of camp, there was now a lawsuit that just came out for the sexual abuse of a minor in their Rye, New York, at a summer camp connected to the church.
Yeah, well, so there is a thing. Let me just warn everyone how stuff works sometimes, but not necessarily, but sometimes. I once gave $50,000 to a guy who was my director at the Acme Theater many years ago, after I became successful, to invest in his restaurant. And I never really suspected I'd get the money back, but that was fine. I was now successful, and I thought a lot of it was in part with the work I did in the Acme Theater, and he was the director, and so fine. So I gave him $50,000, and he started a restaurant on the West Side. Some years later, I never got paid back, but some years later, I got like a thing, official lawsuit, lawyer, whatever, because some company that cleaned the tablecloths and did the linen didn't get paid, and they're suing, and they see my name on the thing. Even though I have nothing to do with it, I gave him some money. He started a restaurant, but my name is somewhere. And when the lawyers are looking down the list, they find the name they recognize, and then they highlight that name, and they go, now go sue that guy. And I've got nothing to do with the restaurant or the linen company or who didn't get paid or any of this, but my name is on a list of somewhere. And I seem like maybe I have deeper pockets than the name they don't recognize. Mm-hmm. So then I get sued. Now, at some point, a news outlet could pick this up and go, Carolla sued because he's a deadbeat, because he refuses to pay, and now it's something, right? Now, I don't care. It didn't really happen. I mean, that did happen to me, but it's not a sexy story about paying a linen cleaning service. But if it had been a sexy story, then my name would have been over the salacious story, right? If a woman, if one of the waitresses was sexually abused and assaulted in the bathroom of the restaurant, then my name would be right next to the sexual assault thing, right? And that's just the way it works. So when you see stories like this, always take them with a grain of salt. because we don't know if they're involved with it or it's the church they went to. And he's the most recognizable name on the list.
Yeah, it certainly appears that way because...
Well, hopefully he gets clear about it and steps up and makes sure that our hero remains our hero. There's no one greater than Mariano Rivera, the greatest of all time. We need our heroes. So, step up and make it clear. ASAP.
Yeah, he had a 19-year Hall of Fame career with the Yankees, winning 5 World Series and recording the most saves in MLB history.
The best.
The best.
Yeah.
There was none better than Mariano Rivera.
Yeah, it's not even about him. It's about
Eckersley was great. Great look, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mustache, long hair.
Yeah.
That was a good look.
Eckersley could get it done.
Yeah, until he ran into
He might have all 5.
Until he ran into Kirk Gibson. Yeah.
Trump tells Putin to end Ukraine war now or else. We can do it the easy way or the hard way. Yeah, President Trump warned his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, to end the war in Ukraine quickly or else face high levels of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions.
You know what's weird? So funny. It's also insane how much stuff we get wrong. Like, remember, I don't know, 3.5, 4 years ago when, or whenever 3 years ago when he began this, Biden was like, well, listen, we're just going to sanction all the oligarchs. We're going to take away their yachts. We're going to take away their high-rise condominiums in New York City and their pro sports teams. And they're going to come. He's going to come and beg into us to end this war. It's like, all right, that sounds like a plan. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Nothing. He was telling us. And then when gas was $5 a gallon or eggs were $9, it was like, that's Putin's price hikes. Putin hiked our price of eggs?
Yeah,
he did. And I'm like, I want to always say to the Democrats, stop giving Putin so much power over us, would you please? He rigged the election. He raised the prices of everything. Like, we don't have dominion over him. He doesn't have dominion over us. Remember, he was real sick? Remember the stories of Putin's sick. Putin's dying. He's got a disease. He's not going to live much longer. That's why he's doing it. That's fucking... What do we get right about Putin? Do we get anything right? It's weird. We have CIA, we have informants, we have FBI, we have people who know about these subjects. Why is everything Putin wrong? Every Steele dossier, Putin election, whatever, wrong. 4 years of wrong. Then right into price hikes, and then probably will bring the oligarchs to their knees, and they'll put the pressure on Putin, and Putin's going to pull out of Ukraine once the oligarchs lose their apartments. Nothing.
Maybe
Nothing.
A Russian disinformation
and he's
campaign?
eternally 55. He's just the same age. He remains 55.
But the KGB go collect his poop. That was one of the things. They collect his poop so nobody can analyze it.
I assume...
Really?
Yeah, that was the thing. That was the story.
I would assume
look
Biden...
into that for me.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Biden is lying when he's saying, Putin's price hike or oligarchs or we're going to shut him down. I'm sure he doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's just talking. But I'm just saying... Our batting average on Putin is bad. We don't, in no way, shape, or form have been able to prognosticate any of the movements. And speaking of movements, and I think the only thing that works on that guy is a punch in the face. And so now that's coming.
So you think so? Do you think that this Trump will make a change?
He was supposed to take down the Ukraine in a week. It's been 3 years. We can say whatever we want about him right now. He's very busy.
I think that the reason there was hostage movement was Trump. I think internationally there's movement when Trump starts coming in. I think with Biden, and I think would have been with Kamala Harris, that the international crew just goes, it's kind of business as usual. We don't really need to worry too much about what's going on.
Trump is a bit like Putin in that you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
right.
a little, right?
That's what they respond to.
The wild man at the end of the bar.
Yeah, I don't want to test him. I don't know what he's going to do.
Exactly.
Rocket Man. I mean, with the nicknames haven't started yet. Wait.
I know, yeah. I'm waiting for
There's
nickname
new people
season
now.
to drop.
Well, I don't know if that's part of the 2.0 makeover.
What are you expecting at 2.0? How different are you expecting it than 1.0?
I think somebody got to him to the extent where they just went, this part of your game is not helpful. Like all the handles and tags on everybody and some of the late night tweeting and stuff. Like, he's down about 40% in the crazy rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. Personal battle department, like in the middle of this. Like, the first version of him would go, look, there's Putin, there's Ukraine, there's what's going on in Israel, there's Iran. But first, I got to get to Rosie O'Donnell and settle her hash. That bitch. Yeah. That bitch is fat. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think somebody went, just a little less of that and a little more of the bigger picture stuff. But he seems to be doing.
He was president for 30 seconds before he walked into the adjacent room and said, all right, now all the things that they didn't want me to say, I got to say. I think this guy's fat, this guy's short. I mean, he went right into this secondary room and started launching some bombs.
Maybe it was Melania, the unsung hero. She's like, Donald, stop.
She looks,
like
by the way, like a different woman. She was smiling. They looked like a couple of kids on the dance floor at prom.
Yeah.
At the inauguration, she was laughing at his jokes. He was doing the YMCA dance with the sword, and she was like, look, my husband is so cute and funny. I was like, wow.
But she didn't
she's
have
warmed up.
The Darkwing Duck hat on, though, so it felt kind of strange.
Yeah, she did. You do Melania?
I mean, Donald, why are you talking like this to everyone?
Shut up or you get the sword.
Please. Be nicer to your opponents.
And whatever shit Stackistan you're from, the sword is the number one weapon.
Don't smite them with your iron fist.
I'll use my sword to do my talking. You ever see that Remington commercial?
In CNN news, boss Mark Thompson confirms 200 layoffs across cable TV network in a digital push. 200 people are out of a job. Looks like on-air talent are secure because they have contracts, but a lot of the newsroom is going down.
Yeah, they have.
That's your business, Billy. What do you think?
Well, first of all, the ratings for CNN during the inauguration is one. Fox News has 10 million. They had barely 1.7 million people watching. It's kind of anemic there, and I think part of the push is for them to be a little less Trump resistance. But you can see they're all hamstrung. They've nothing. This is what they do.
Right.
I would say hang on to your resistance. Just from a strategy point, it's going to come around. Mm-hmm. Like right now, it feels like everybody's behind Trump. He got the popular vote, and there's a big wave and that. But like, you'll have your chance again. He's going to do some stuff. And
so, if you were to run CNN, what would your strategy be to make it grow in ratings? Because news and entertainment are hand in hand nowadays.
Well, I think the last majorly innovative thing they did was put Larry King on. And that was a long time ago. And so it's just kind of the same thing. I would get all these boring people off that are just talking heads that have been around forever, who are just schlubby and unattractive and not interesting. Get them off.
So a hotter CNN.
Yeah, I would probably sex it up a little bit. Like, give me some interesting people that I think, ooh, that's a cool person. I like that guy. I like that girl.
Yeah, go into the podcast world, go online, find some young people that have a motor, that are interesting, that have sort of takes, and let's revamp this thing a little bit.
Yeah, and Fox News is doing it. They put Will Cain on, who's he's now in the daytime, replaced Cavuto, who Your World with Cavuto now has this guy, Will Cain, who was at ESPN, and he has a podcast, and he's down in Dallas. And so I think there's going to be a lot of repurposing podcasts or licensing them. Like, McAfee has a great deal at ESPN. That guy, $17 million a year, and he doesn't have to report to anyone. You put Carolla on, let me tell you something, Carolla's not getting called into the news director's office.
Goddamn right,
Send me the check. Send me the check.
I got FME money. All right, Joe Piscopo's waiting in the wings, so I'm going to bid adieu to Mayhem and Billy Bush. Billy Bush, the podcast, Hot Mics with Billy Bush. I did it. I was duly impressed. I really was. It's on TuneIn.com and also on YouTube. And I think you got something going there, Billy.
Well, help me out. I need your help.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
I really do. We'll take a quick break. Back with the legendary SNL alumni and radio host Joe Piscopo right after this. Huel. Now, Huel dropped off a case of their amazing product and said, could you hold it in your hand when you do the read? And I said, yeah, that's what I do. Then I looked around and I'd consumed all of it. So I am Huel-less at this point. But do not worry. I shall get more. It's a brand new year. And you think about setting goals and actually hitting them. And that's where Huel comes in. They're a great sponsor. They're spelled Huel. Their Black Edition ready to drink is a complete meal in a bottle. High in protein, low in sugar, packed with all the nutrients you need to perform at your best. New customers can try it out at a 15% discount plus a free gift using my exclusive offer code ADAM. So that's 15% off and a free gift. Just use the code ADAM. You know, you get up in the morning, maybe feeling a little sluggish. Maybe you don't have everything in the tank you need in the tank. Maybe it's depleted a little, and that's where Huel comes in. Drink one of those bad boys and get going on your day. No prep, no cooking. Just grab the Huel. Well, it's like your most convenient meal. Take it in the car. That's what I do. Tastes like a milkshake, and it's low in sugar. It's Huel. Right, Dawson?
Get 15% plus a free gift for new customers with the code ADAM at Huel.com. Start your year off strong with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters. The Adam Carolla Show presents Joe Piscopo's birthday cocktail party for June 17th. Let's see who's invited. Let's welcome former King of England, Edward I. And here's former King of Sweden, Charles XII. One of the dudes who signed the Declaration of Independence, William Hooper, is here. Hooper? Here's French composer Charles Gounod. Here's the Harlem Renaissance poet who wrote the lyrics to Lift Every Voice and Sing, James Weldon Johnson. The father of modern plastic surgery who pioneered skin grafts, Harold Gillies is here. Let's welcome Russian composer Igor Stravinsky. Here's Hitler's secretary, Martin Bormann. Here's the guy who played banjo on Hee Haw, String Bean, David Eggman. From Laugh-In, it's Bill Rafferty. Singer and keyboardist from Santana, Greg Raleigh is here. From Mike and the Mechanics, it's Paul Young. Newt Gingrich is here. From No Doubt, Eric Stefani is here. From Saturday Night Live, Will Forte joined the party. Let's welcome tennis star Venus Williams. Kendrick Lamar is here. And the guy who writes the songs that make the whole world sing, Barry Manilow. Joe Piscopo is on the Adam Carolla Show.
That's an eclectic and impressive list, Joe Piscopo. The book, by the way, Average Joe, Memoirs of a Blue-Collar Entertainer. And we'll talk about that. Also, the radio show, the Joe Piscopo Show, I've been on many times. Always enjoyed myself. It's AM 970 in New York City. What's going on, Joe?
Adam, Igor Stravinsky, huh? I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Borman, not so much.
No.
Stravinsky, I'm liking that. Barry Manilow, I knew. The very interesting birthday thing, huh?
Yeah.
How you doing?
It always stings a little for me because I got Todd Bridges from Different Strokes, and that is the number one guy on my birthday list, and it pales in comparison to everybody with all their luminaries and greats like Joe Piscopo. So it's humbling. It's humbling.
Man, it is. Hey, Adam, great to be on with you. Thank you for always jumping on the air with us. We always look forward to it. You're always great on the air. And let me express, my heart to you of all that you went through. You were on the air throughout all of the fires, which are still continuing. But are you okay? I feel like I got to ask you, you doing okay? Everything okay out there for you?
Yeah, I was pointing out to somebody about an hour ago that I'm out of socks. I'm literally out. I don't have socks.
That's the thing,
they're
man.
all dirty, and I woke up at Dr. Drew's house today.
What?
I stay at Dr. Drew's house. I can't go back to my house.
Wow.
And I don't have socks.
It's so little. I got to tell you, I was thinking about you. And now I'm out in the boondocks. I speak to you out in the boondocks of Jersey, West Jersey. And I was thinking about the fires, and even like I couldn't get the propane to my house because I'm out in the country. So you can't. I want to know who's in charge. I want to know why these things keep happening, man. Why? And again, that you put people in charge, and for the fires to start at all out there, and then I'm out here and I'm in Jersey. I can't even get the propane out to the house. It's like I am so ready for Trump time. I'm so ready for, let's just do it. Let's just do it. If all businesses should have to go on absolute Trump time, rather than, just they don't care about regular citizens like this, man. And you without your socks. How dare they?
Socks.
Right.
Well, you were starting to say it's the little things, it's the little things and it's the basics. And you never really think about it, but I'm going on 2.5 weeks.
Oh.
I've never been out of whatever home I've been in, and I've been in apartments and had roommates and lived in my dad's garage and stuff. Yeah. The longest run I probably ever made was 10 days in Europe or something, some version of that. I'm at a personal best. I'm coming on 3 weeks of not having anything, not any of my possessions. But Joe, let's not make this about me. Let's make it about you. A legendary member of SNL, of course, coming up on the 50th year anniversary. Are we there yet? When is the 5th?
February, right at February 14th it starts, actually.
And there, during interesting times, I think you and Eddie Murphy were the only holdovers from the old administration.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you left SNL. I'm not assuming they asked you to leave because you did so many voices and were so important to SNL.
Yeah. It was interesting. Eddie and I came up, and as you know, and then they kept us. They got rid of everybody, including Gilbert Gottfried, by the way. Rest Gilly's soul. Gilly and I came up in the clubs together back in the late 70s, man. And I was upset about that. They got rid of Gilly, and they kept Eddie and I. And then we stayed. And then Eddie said early on, when he started doing the films, he was leaving. So, I tell you what, the cast was great. Mary Gross, Timmy Kazurinsky, a lot of the cast was great. Even Julie Louis-Dreyfus was there. Everybody was nice. I just came up with Eddie. He was leaving, and that was the impetus right there. They offered me, Dick Ebersol offered me a cold contract. I put it all in the book, just to document, and I walked away from it. They wanted to keep me on. But, you know what, Adam, too? The next year, after Eddie was leaving, and then I said, should I stay on? Who did they put on? Martin Short and Chris Guest and Billy Crystal. And I'm going, they don't need me here. Jimmy Belushi, they don't need me here. And that was the impetus. And I just kind of left. It was all kind of friendly and but you burn out, my brother. You burn out. I don't know how guys stay there. They stay there like 9 years. Yeah. God bless him. God bless him. I was just, I think, ready to go. And once Eddie go, that was the impetus there. But it was all nice and all good. But man, oh man, I go by NBC today, Adam Carolla, and I still get anxiety thinking about what material do I have? What am I going to write for the week? Yeah, it's really nuts, Yeah,
in a weird way, I guess it's like professional football. It is a young man's sport, and
it's so bad.
And, they go, the average NFL career is, 3 years and 9 months or 3 years and 2 months or whatever. And if you looked up, here's an interesting thing, I'm put it to Dawson, but if you looked up the average NFL career and the average SNL career, you'd probably about the same number. Because you always hear about the guy who was there for 14 years, but a lot of people were one and done,
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I got, not to plug it, but I was in it. Peacock, and I think NBC is going to do it on Monday. They came out with a whole documentary. They did a great documentary on SNL, and they interviewed all of us, and you could hear all the angst that we all went through. I ended up watching this thing, and it's a great documentary, and they did one on the writers too, Adam, coming up with the material, waiting for your material to get in. Wait till Lauren puts the board up, but going back to the cast, you could see, and then as I sat back the other day and I watched this great documentary that they did on the SNL 50, and I said, we all feel the same way. It was like we were lucky to be alive, we were lucky to be there, we were lucky to survive, and we still don't know how we did it. Everybody felt the same way. That's what it was at SNL. It was just like, just the pressure of it every week to come up with. And I got to say, Eddie and I, nobody had it easy, but I think Ebersol would like to turn to Eddie and I and say, what are you guys doing this week? So we had an in, but a lot of the folks, particularly like Julie Louis-Dreyfus, who was like 19 or something at the time, a lot of the folks you have to not fight for your time on the air, but you got to fight for your time on the air. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't easy.
The average tenure of an NFL player is about 3.3 years, and the average tenure of an SNL member is 3.9 seasons.
Wow. Look at you, man.
That's pretty close.
Well done. Look at that.
So you say blue-collar entertainer. I think of myself as a blue-collar entertainer just because of how I grew up and what I did before I got into show business. Yeah. But what is your version of a blue-collar view, as it pertains to you, the blue-collar entertainer?
Working live. You're working live. Like Rodney always said. He always said to me, you're as good as your last show. The second you step off stage, you have to do it all over again. People would think that's like a mental illness. And I don't know why. It's got to be ingrained in you, But this isn't like going on film. All right, can we do another take? This isn't even on television. Even on radio, you and I, we could dance on the radio. You know what? When you're doing live, and a good portion of my life is doing live, you're sweating on stage. There's no safety net really, and you're as good as your last show. And it's like it's never ending because you do it all over again. It's like the 9 to 5 of entertainment, the live portion I'm talking about. Yeah. So, and you're sweating, man. People don't understand. Now you could be in a tuxedo, and so I was down in Washington doing a thing, and I had tuxedo on. People go, oh yeah, Joe, you look like a real blue collar guy. Hey, I got to go on stage. I got to sweat. I got to work. I got to make it work. We got minutes to make it work. You got a certain amount of time to get the crowd. It's like that. I think live entertainment was what I refer to, and that's pretty much the basis of my life. And that is really blue collar work. It's hard work because, again, it's grit. It's getting dirty. And there's no mercy. There's no mercy, man. So that's what that reference was about.
So you start out where? Like, what is the origin story of Joe Piscopo?
Oh, you're good. Thank you. My heritage. That's all it's about. My heritage. And we co-wrote it with Scott Lamb, great writer. And that's a great question because I said, how do you start it? Because I talked about my Italian-American heritage, what it means to me, how my parents ingrained in me the Italian-American community, how my grandparents came over from another country, learned the language, learned the laws, and they just wanted to be American. They came with the American flag in their hand, looked at the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, that whole story. And we draw a million analogies of what made me who I am through my parents and my grandparents, through my heritage, which I think translates to every ethnicity, because I believe the ethnicity is the foundation of America, So, but to me, if I can jump at them, the interesting thing for me is I started to write about the early days of comedy at the Improvisation, man, with Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld and Gilly Gottfried and everybody else. Then I started getting into it, into Saturday Night Live. I'm reading it, and it was like an out-of-body experience thinking, did I really live through that, man? I lived through that? And that was the interesting. So we start with the heritage, who I am, where I'm from, and then how I got, into the comedy clubs and wanting to just do entertainment and starting at the Improvisation Hell's Kitchen in the late 70s in New York City.
As a stand-up, and the voice is, I find the impressions are sort of like balance. in that I can't do impressions at all, but I always had good balance, and I learned to ride a unicycle when I was 9. You know what I mean? Just because I had balance. You know, it kind of bubbles to the top, you know, if it's something you do. So you start off and you're doing impersonations of school teachers and characters on TV and things of that nature.
Exactly right.
And then you go into stand-up. And how much of your act is impersonations early?
Yeah, it's good. I'm not a stand-up. I never was. I'm telling you, Jerry Seinfeld, stand-up. Larry David. All those guys that I came up with were stand-up comics. Like, and in the clubs in the late 1970s. Richard Pryor would come in, Robert Klein would come in, Rodney Dangerfield, Elaine Boozler. It was like those were stand-ups who just wrote. Matter of fact, Rodney, the most pure stand-up of all in my mind. We spent a lot of time. He'd come down to the club. He would work out, those 6 weeks before he went on the Tonight Show. It was awesome to watch him do that in the club. But then I would end up leaning on the impressions. And I would do a Frank Sinatra, I would do a Tom Snyder back then, and we would do different impressions like that. But a lot of it was this, me being the master of ceremonies, and Chris Albrecht, legendary HBO producer who really handled all of us comics at the Improv at the time, said, Joe, you're going to be the master of ceremonies. So I worked the door, and then I was like the MC, and I would introduce, Robin Williams would come in, everybody who was anybody would come up. Andy Kaufman was on stage, man, and I would mostly just be like the host to welcome everybody, but not as a stand-up, because a stand-up is a certain breed and you got to be really good at it. And I'm not a stand-up. I'm more like an entertainer. So the impressions, that balanced me out, but when I got to SNL, it was just survival. Hey, who's going to do Jimmy Carter? And I would say, Danny Aykroyd did Jimmy Carter. Man, I can't do Jimmy Carter. You're doing Jimmy Carter. Hey, you're going to do John Anderson. Who the heck is John Anderson? The independent candidate running when Carter ran. I had to do these esoteric impressions. It was survival mostly where those impressions came from, and a really great makeup artist in a guy named Kevin Haney.
Do you think this is a little esoteric, but I was talking to Dr. Drew because I'm staying at his house, and I was doing his show, and
he has no socks. He has no socks he can lend you. He must have, nothing.
I'm sure he's lousy with socks. I'm sure he has 2 drawers dedicated to socks. I feel self-conscious.
Yeah, understood.
Going to him and going, "Hey, man, I need some socks."
You can't.
But Dr. Drew, there's nobody on the planet who would offer his socks up faster than Dr. Drew.
Drew, understood. I heard that, actually.
He was walking out the door this morning, and he sent me a text saying, the lady is here if you have dirty clothes to give her. And I have a bag full of socks that are dirty, but I just don't feel right about handing her a bag of dirty socks and telling her to clean my socks when Drew pays her. And there's something wrong with me. Drew texted me. He said, use the lady. We may have dirty clothes. Use the lady. I won't.
So funny.
He left. I should have stolen his socks. I should have just crept up to his room and taken his socks.
That's great.
But I feel self-conscious about it, and it's stupid.
No, your guilt is warranted, my friend. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah, honestly.
So, all right. So I was talking to Dr. Drew.
Okay.
And I said, and I was doing this podcast, and he was interviewing me about this dry bar special I did, which is an all clean stand-up set, very clean.
Yeah.
And it's not a PG set. It's a G-rated set, basically.
Yeah.
And, he said, well, how was that? How'd that go? And I was like, well, it was a challenge. It was a big challenge. I had to really get in touch with some material, and I eliminated a lot of my act, and I had to work it. But it was a challenge, and I'm glad I did it, because it was harder, and I thought it kind of brought something out. And I said, look, it's really the equivalent swearing, and I'll circle this back to impersonations, but swearing is sort of something people fall back on. It's kind of a shock value thing. I said, look, if you're fat, you tell some fat jokes. You can it's a crutch. It's a little bit of a crutch. Sometimes women do that. With any single ladies out there, come on, ladies. Who knows what it's like to date out there? There's a black version of it. There's a Hispanic version. There's an ethnic version of you kind of falling back onto something. You know what I mean?
Right,
now,
that's right.
Seinfeld doesn't do that. He doesn't have that. He's heterosexual. He's rich. He's white. He's a male. So there's nothing there. And when you go dry bar, there's nothing. There's just you. And I thought to myself, and in a way, I'm thankful that I never had anything to fall back on, because it made me work a little bit harder and find a voice. And if I could do impressions, I would just fall right back on it. I would be so easy. And the audience always reacts. It always gets a great pop, and it's easy. And I'm just asking, it's not answerable, but if Joe Piscopo couldn't do impressions, you would probably then be pushed into the Seinfeld, Dangerfield, what you talked about when you go, I'm not a comedian. You probably would have been if you couldn't fall back on this.
Yeah, maybe. And again, if making the transition to SNL and having to be the utility guy there, that was, again, out of necessity. They needed somebody to do characters, different characters, like the Whiners with Robin Duke, or the sports guy like I did, or the original characters like Solomon and Pudge like Eddie and I did, or the impressions. But that was like, that's a very interesting analogy, falling back on what do you drop the F-bomb or not for a laugh, or do you go to the impressions for a laugh? That's why I have immense respect for comics like yourself who would just get up there and do exactly that. Because that's the hardest thing of all, by the way. The hardest thing of all. And you know what else, Adam, if I may deviate for a second? Can we pivot here just for a moment? The funniest cats at the Improv you never heard from again. The funniest cats that blew that room out in 1977, 78, in fact, and I can remember the names, but I don't want to mention it. They were the funniest guys, creative. The room would blow out, and nothing happened, man. Isn't that the wildest thing about the business, Far more talented than I was.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not agreeing with that. But what I'm saying is I'm not far more talented than you. But what I have an answer. Because people always say to me, who's the funniest guy and they expect me to go Norm Macdonald or whomever. And I always have the same answer. I go, you've never heard of him.
Is that the wildest thing, man? I mean, I could think of the bits. I could think of the punchlines. I could think of the room. I could think of the time, 1:30 in the morning. This guy's not going to get anybody to laugh. And they blow out a room and never heard from him again, man. That's why I always say, but for the grace of God, I said I always consider myself so fortunate. Whether you're leaning on the F-bomb, whether you're leaning on the impressions, it's like, man, oh man, it's all survival. But the interesting thing is you can't put your finger on why exactly that happens. Why does that happen?
I believe that. And I know it does feel like a lot of luck and happenstance and grace of God, because you go, well, this guy's so funny, man, and yet never had a tenth of the success of some of these other people. Yeah. So that does seem a lot like luck. But there's kind of two parts. Well, let's look at it like athleticism. You know what I mean? You can be a great athlete, or you could be Tom Brady, who doesn't rank in the top 200 of great athletes in the quarterback position, but the work ethic and the approach, and people call it politics. There's politics, and I mean, knowing who to treat. When I met Jimmy Kimmel, I was like, I'm going to treat this guy right, because I think he could help me a lot, and I felt that way about a lot of people I met on the way up. I'm like, I got to stay in this guy's good graces. You'll hear stories about the guy who blew out the room at 1:30 a.m. telling the general manager to fuck off at some point, throwing a beer at him. You know, there's going to be those stories. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
So it wasn't all just cosmic luck of the draw. Joe Piscopo may not have thought he was as funny as Joe Blowscopo over there, but you did your job. You were sober. You showed up on time. You didn't get in people's faces. You know what I mean? Like there's a part of the job that's a job, man.
Yeah, it's true. It was a work ethic. And when I went over to SNL, and it's in the book, interesting how my friend John DeBellis, who was a great writer and a great stand-up in his own right, but he got me over to SNL because they needed a utility guy. So they had me audition early on to Gene Domanion after Lauren left. So I went in and I said, now what am I going to be doing? So I ended up doing characters. I ended up doing the characters. Excuse me. I ended up doing like just the Frank Sinatra character. I ended up doing the other characters. And they said, we need a guy like that. Adam, I must have bypassed about 1,000 auditions because they said, okay, we're going to put you at the top of the line when we have our auditions. So I was fortunate there as well. But when I went and did my audition, I had to do different characters, and I was there. Gilly was there. Paul Rubens was there in my generation. Is that the wildest thing?
Wow.
I know. I don't remember Paul, but I remember Gilly and I. And then they wanted a utility guy. And you know what, too? I don't know how to describe it, and I put this in the book. The book is about survival, because I just wanted to survive. I am amazed on where I got to. I'm amazed I worked with like Eddie Murphy. I'm on with Adam Carolla. We're having fun. I'm on the radio. What? I don't even ask. I just do it, but I study it. I work very hard at it. I make sure I get rest. I don't do drugs. I make sure I'm on my game. And you know, it's just the journey, man. It's the journey. It's not like I'm going to be a star. I'm going to be that big. I'm going to be like this big No, it's the journey. And it takes you years to learn that. But early on, the work ethic is what stuck with me. And then that happenstance, all those things that happened, however I ended up there, once I got there, I made sure I worked very, very hard. And again, as an aside, if I could pivot for a second, I'm the guy that would underline his lines at Saturday Night Live. I had a script, I would underline my lines. Eddie would go like this. He looked at the script, go, got it, boom, throw it. Gilbert, too. When Gilbert was on the show, boom. It was just like me. I was so studious, and I'm still that way to this day when I do a live show, you know? But it's survival, and and like to your point, Adam, it's by the grace of God, I guess, man. And you just gotta dig every single day, you know? So that's why I'm so grateful for it. But it's all about survival, I think, you know?
Yeah, well, look, I think it's about being realistic and knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses. And I do shows oftentimes, and I was doing Dave Rubin's show the other day, right? And somebody said, "Will we forward you an email with the topics? You know, he's going to want to talk about this. He's going to want to talk about that." In which case, I go, "Yeah, I don't need to look at that. Whatever Dave's bringing, I'll have answers to, and let's just do it." All right, so that's no homework, no studying, no preparation, but realistically, knowing this is a strength and it's something I can do. And so I'm not worried about it. I just go, that's fine. Whatever he wants to bring up anything you want to bring up. I'll have a good answer for whatever it is you bring up. Then conversely, I was never a good reader. I was a poor reader. And I knew I'd struggled with reading, and I knew it was going to be real difficult for me to go out and do a monologue with cue cards and mow through it. It was hard for me.
Interesting.
So I would find myself, when I was doing the Man Show, we'd do a cue card session, and they'd be all locked off. And when the cue cards were locked off, I would say to the producer, "Okay, now get me what's on my cue cards on 3 pieces of paper, and I'm going to go sit in my dressing room and I'm going to read them over and over and over again. Yes, because I'm not good at this. Now, if someone says, come on the radio and crack wise, I don't prepare. Someone says, read cue cards. I found myself sitting in my room, my dressing room, and I would just I'd read it. And when I got to the bottom of the third page, I go right back up to the top of the first page. I go back down because I knew I was not a good reader. I was insecure about it. And so maybe I over-prepared. The story that what always made me laugh is Jimmy was a great reader. And he's literally the kind of guy that you could just type out a page and hand it to him cold, and he'd just read it just right through with all the punctuation and everything, pronouncing everyone's name. And I can imagine. So one day before season, I don't know, 3 or 4 or whatever it was, we'd come back for the first episode of that year. And so we'd been off for, I don't know, 6 months. And we were standing behind the door of the set where we're about to be announced, and the door would fly open and Jimmy and I would come out and the crowd would go crazy. And so we're just standing back there, just sort of waiting to walk out. And his cue cards were one color and my cue cards were another color, so we wouldn't read each other's cue cards. His was black and mine was blue, so it's separate. It delineated it, right? And I just got done sitting in my dressing room for the last 2 hours, just feverishly reading, dragging my finger, saying it out loud, not wanting to flub. He was such a good reader that I felt like I don't want to be a liability. I don't want to flub this up and screw up my lines. And so we're standing by the door and we're right about to be announced. And he looked at me and he goes, "Which color are my cue cards again?" I thought, oh, you don't have a care in the world, do you?
Yeah. You know what? Can I tell you? Before SNL, every single week. This is amazing that you said that, because you had 2 sets of cards on SNL. You have to your left and to your right. And they're to this day, they're still just written out.
Yep.
So I would go, and remember Kevin Kay, who went on to, work with, in the business, a big executive, but he was the cue card guy at the time. Right before it was about 11:20, I would run down under the bleachers where they were doing the cards, doing the changes last minute after the dress rehearsal, and run every single card. You make me feel like I'm normal, because I thought I was nuts. Every card. And I would apologize. And I would say, Kevin, and they would run it. I wanted to see where the words were placed on the cards,
right,
so I knew where to go to.
Right.
It's the wildest thing that you brought that up. I never heard anybody say that before. I always felt bad. To this day, I apologize to Kevin Kay every single day, Yes,
I know, but my point is, it's not that Jimmy's lazy or that I'm motivated. It's that Jimmy understands what he's good at, and I understand what I'm bad at.
Exactly right.
And
I felt the same way.
You figure out what you're bad at and work on it. And like I said, I didn't prepare for Dave Rubin's show because I knew I was good at that. And he could say whatever he wanted, and I'd be prepared with an answer. But if I had to read, 10 cue cards, then I would have prepared. So that's just about being realistic.
Yeah, it's so true. And again though, with going through that era of the late 70s, middle of the night, just grabbing any time you can get on stage. No one wrote about it, no one talked about it. And then, like Danny Aykroyd, I asked Danny to do he's my hero. To me, Dan Aykroyd embodies everything that's great about SNL. He is SNL. He an absolute comic genius, and someone I admire so immensely. And he gave me a quote, and he was just saying, like, we're utility guys. He goes to my fellow utility guy. He used that word, just out of survival and just to get the job done, not looking for stardom, just striving ahead. Again, in a blue collar sense of just the work ethic is what it is. And that's pretty much, I've always approached the business just like that, And I think, you know what, Adam? I think I'm too dumb to get to worry about where I am in my career. I think I'm kind of I don't think I'm I just don't think about it. If I'm working, Remember Jerry Lewis, D. Martin, Frank Sinatra brings them together. You're too young, but Jerry.
I remember.
Frank Sinatra,
Yeah.
Yep. But and what does Jerry Lewis say to D. Martin if they don't see each other for 20 years? What does Jerry go? So you're working, but that's not it in a nutshell. So you working. That was it, man, and that's where my heart is at. Just working on the journey and surviving, my brother.
Are you doing many dates per year?
I do every week. I'm out, maybe once, maybe about 2 to 4 a month. I go out. So the schedule, the morning radio is. I mean, I'm like Pacino with the morning radio. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. It's AM 970. I'm getting up when we used to come in back in the day, but we love it. We got by the grace of God, 4 hours, and then I do the weekend show Sundays with Sinatra, across town at WABC. But then I'm always out. Like I was down in we just went down for the inauguration, and they wanted me to perform at the New Jersey Ball because I only play the hot spots, And I just went up, and so I went up, and I'm on stage entertaining at the Jersey Ball, dropped by the New York Ball. And it's in my DNA, man. I dig it. And this is it. Chris Albrecht said to me once, and I quote Chris a lot in the book. And he's the guy that put Sopranos on the air, Larry David on the air, Sex and the City. And he was there very, very early on. And he said to me early on when I was in the clubs, and he said, Joe, don't ever throw away your live show. Don't ever throw away your live show, he said to me. And you know what? He's right. And you know what? By the grace of God, I'll be working. I'm working, and I travel around the country, and we do it. It's a gas. Adam, you got to dig it or not.
No, I agree.
It's got to be in your blood. I always I think of Robin Williams. Robin would come into the club, fired up, right off of Mork and Mindy. Rest his brilliant soul. Sweetest guy in the world. He couldn't wait to get on that stage, Robin. He had to be there, and I think there's a little of that in all of us where we kind of have to be there. Very interesting, whether it's radio, whether it's just going and doing something on the radio or live. It's just something that we have to work. But the live factor, I dig. We do live every day on the radio. It's live with again, no safety net. And again, it's in the DNA, and here we are after all these years later, man. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable.
It is. I mean, it is.
Think about it.
It is. Well, look, it's a.
Look at you, Mr. Big Shot. Most downloads in history over there. God bless you, man. Huh?
Listen, I'm the same with you. I had the fortune of and misfortune of having very humbling, regular blue collar working jobs for a long time. And so when I go to Naples, Florida, and they want to add a fifth show, I go, who cares? It's air conditioned. They feed you free beer. That ain't work. And then and they go, you want to work that much? I go, that's not work. First off, I'm indoors.
Yes, I'm indoors. Will you please tell people that? They go like this. They always go, why are you working so hard? And now I'm telling you, and I hear the footsteps. Again, I'm older than you are. I hear the footsteps. You hear it. And my buddy goes, QTR, quality time remaining. I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop, man. Joe, you're pushing so hard. You know what I want to go? I want to, because we do a lot of music and I do I become the Wayne Newton of comedy, I love Wayne, I'm like, I do the music on stage, we do the different instruments and stuff. So I'm thinking, to your point, I want to be on stage. I want to maybe do a big drum solo. I want the crowd to be there. Maybe they give me a standing ovation again, and then I just die of a massive coronary right there. That's the way to go. You know what I mean? Just on stage. I think I could be happy, but God forbid that happens. But I think I could be happy with that, man.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have a lot of choice in it if it did happen. But no, I mean, I agree. The saying is he died doing what he loved. The book, by the way, the Average Joe is the name of the book. Memoir. Yeah. It's coming out soon, right? And
can I show it on there?
Yeah.
The publishers are so nice, and they're being so great. And it's a survival story of folks like you and me, man, just digging what we're doing.
And the Joe Piscopo show. That's AM 970. I've had fortunate enough to be on it a few times. I I'll come back anytime you like, Joe.
We're honored to have you, my friend. Honored to have you.
JoePiscopo.org is where you go to find out anything?
I think JoePiscopo.us they got now. So
okay.
I think so.
There.
You know what? It's on Instagram. It's at Jersey Joe Piscopo on X. You know what, man? It's fun, and I'm so glad to hear you say that. Add the fifth show. I know. I always do that. God bless you for that, because it's fun, and we're digging it, and it's all good, and I want to embrace it. And people are nice, and it's a great time in our country, and we're able to work, Adam Carolla. We're able to work.
Listen, people are nice. If people go, you sure you want to go out and do the meet and greet after that? Go, what? People are nice. They came out to see the show. Let's go say hi to them.
It's so true, man.
Joe Piscopo. Thank you, my brother.
I'll talk to you on the radio, Adam. Thank you.
I hope so. I love doing the show. All right. That was Joe Piscopo, Billy Bush as well, and Mayhem Miller. Boca Raton. That show's sold out. It's going to be sold out on Thursday. But Naples, man. 6 shows in Naples. So go to Naples, Florida. That'll be January 31st through February, 1st and then 2nd. Yeah, I think there's 2 shows on Sunday I was informed of, so we'll tweak our stuff. Yeah. So, till next time, that happened for Billy and Joe. Billy Joe, say it. Mahala.